Hi, guys. The Bench Loves Lucy will be taking a brief break for Thanksgiving week, so we will have no new episode on the 24th.
We might be eating turkey, we might be making mashed potatoes, or we might be just taking a break. Either way, we will be back to you soon.
We'll be back officially on December 1st, so continue to tune in, and don't forget to leave us a review.
The Bench Loves Lucy. Hi, this is Shauna.
And this is Trisha.
And this is The Bench Loves Lucy,
the podcast.
So today we have the best episode for you so far.
Ever.
I'm just kidding.
So far.
This is the third one.
All these episodes, this one's the best.
But I have to tell you, I love this show. I love this. Trisha's got something in her pocket that she just showed me. Okay. That was a side note. So this episode is called The Seance, and it is so funny. I love this episode. Like it's one of my favorites. I think maybe
it's really funny. Well, we have a lot to go,
right? But I remember this
we have
one.
Like 6 seasons and like 15 episodes a season, and we're on episode 3. So
right. But we
got some episodes.
But this is a really good one for like 80 different reasons.
Super good.
And we're gonna go through all of them right now.
The Seance.
So this episode starts out with, it reminds me of the first episode. It starts out with Lucy like obsessed with something, and she's obsessed with numerology. She's like reading a numerology book, can't focus on what needs to happen, which is breakfast for Ricky.
Wait, can you just note how Ricky just sits at the table and is like, "Where's my breakfast?"
Yeah.
And she's like cooking a million things, like
and reading a book at the same time.
Reading a book at the same time.
She already has his grapefruit like sectioned and ready in the fridge.
Yeah.
Pulls it out.
She's like making his eggs and like some sort of like oatmeal. Sorry.
Trisha's making me laugh because she's doing silly things that nobody can see, because this is radio / podcast. Just kidding. I'm going to say radio because it feels old timey. So, all right. So she's going through numerology and she's like, Ricky, you're like a 5 and I'm a
3.
A 3.
Yeah.
And like so numerology,
and
if
like
y'all,
his name is wrong and he should be named,
and he's like
Genevieve
Lucy, like this is like
he's
reading my palm and tarot cards.
And tarot cards.
Does he say tarot cards?
Yeah.
He just like mentions a bunch of stuff like that.
He's like, what happened to those things? Why is it numerology? And
he's like, I thought you were going to stop all these things. You're a grown woman. This is like silliness.
You should stop because it's child play.
So little does he know this will come to his benefit later. But foreshadowing. So then Ethel comes in, and then instead of them calling each other their names, this is actually pretty funny. They're like, hi 3, hi 7, hi 5, or whatever the like numbers are. And they're just like, and then so she's like tripping out about it. And then she's like, okay, you can't. He's like, oh, my barber's going to call later.
Well, she reads his horoscope and she's like, today is your day.
Yeah.
You should
just
say yes to everything. Go for it. You can get a haircut, do whatever you want.
My barber's going to call. I don't know why he's going to call.
To make an appointment, maybe?
Just tell him yes or
to
sure.
Get a time for my haircut.
I don't really understand what's going on with that. It's a very strange system. So she's like, okay, great. Somebody calls and she's like,
wait. No, first.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
She's like, today's. She's talking to Ethel and she said today is his best day. He gets to say yes to everything.
Oh, and you know why?
Ethel says,
let me look up his sign.
Yeah.
Gemini.
He's a Gemini. And Ethel says, well, this is yesterday's paper.
Not Gemini, people. Gemini. We don't know why she pronounces it that way, and it's hilarious. We both
wrote it down.
We both
Gemini,
phonetically
right
spelled it with an EY.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Ethel's like, that's not today's paper. It's yesterday's paper. And
No,
then
she goes, let me look at mine. Oh, it's the same one as every day. And then it was like, wait a minute, this is the same paper I read yesterday.
So she pulls the current paper out of the trash and is like, oops, I threw away the wrong paper. And today is actually the day that the Gemini should say no to everything.
He should jump in a hole and pull the hole over him or something.
But why
the
is
horoscope was so like specific?
Why is the horoscope related to numerology?
Because it's just all craziness, Trisha. And it's numerology, it's horoscope, it's palm reading, it's tea leaves, it's tarot cards. It's all in the same bucket, according to them.
I mean,
then it get further. It actually keeps going. So
then
we will add more
Lucy
things
realizes,
to this.
Oh, today is Ricky's no day, and she should not have let him out of the house. He should have stayed home in bed with the covers over his head. Like, that rhymes.
So he leaves and he's like, just tell the barber, whatever.
So the phone rings and she answers it, and she's like, no. And
no, I'm
she's
sorry,
like,
no.
No, Ricky told me to say no. And hangs up. And Merriweather, the barber, apparently, is like, okay, no. So then Ricky comes home and he's like, today.
And he comes back to
he
get
comes
something.
Back,
I don't know
like,
what.
I forgot. I'm getting a very important phone call today from somebody who's going to give me a job or whatever.
And when I get this job,
we're going to be set for life.
I'm going to buy you a floor length mink coat
and a diamond ring.
A diamond ring.
And Lucy like crosses her arms and eyes and feet.
No, but then
legs.
when she realizes.
Well, then he's like, oh, the name of the person is Merriweather. Somehow comes out, and she's like, and of course you know this. You're like, she just told the person he's waiting to call no. And she's like, what's your barber's name? And he's like, Nick. And she's like, what's the guy's name? And it's like Merriweather. And she's like, could Nick have changed his name to Merriweather? Like, what?
No, and then she's like totally traumatized because
she ruined it.
She wants the good stuff, and she ruined it for Ricky again. This is going to be a pattern we will see in I Love Lucy.
So now we should have a snack.
Because the next part's going to get really exciting.
Because we have a sponsor.
All right.
Okay. Let's go out to the lobby. Let's go out to the lobby. Let's go out to the lobby and get ourselves a snack. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Dry roasted peanuts, lightly salted with sea salt, low sodium, packed with protein. When you just need a snack and you want to eat a bunch of nuts, this is the one. We're munching on them now. Brought to you by Dry Roasted Peanuts.
Delicious. Anyways.
Back to the show. So, it's all screwed up with Merriweather. Lucy's ruined everything.
Yes.
Again. And how do they get to the next step? He's like, you know what? You're going to go tell Mr. Merriweather right now. You're going to go with me and tell him you made a mistake.
You're going to crawl on your knees and tell Mr. Merriweather.
Does he say crawl on your knees?
Yeah, and she's like, can we just take a cab? It'll be faster. And he's like, sure.
I didn't remember that.
And
he grabs her by the ear. I wrote that down because he's like,
he's like so mad, and she's like, "Hey, you're gonna kill me, maybe."
Yeah, there's always all these weird things where like she's getting punished in like like a way that you would punish a child, where it's like grab you by the ear and pull you out, or like I don't know. Anyway, it's kind of fucked up. It is what it is. So he grabs her by the ear, drags her out the door. She's like, ugh, and so they go to see Mr. Merriweather, who I love. That actor.
He is fabulous.
So he's like sitting in this crazy ass office with like a big bust of something and like all these
a Ouija board.
And he's playing with a Ouija board before they get there.
By himself.
And he's trying to talk to Tilly. Oh, Tilly, will you listen to me? Will you respond to me, Tilly? Or whatever he's saying.
And like...
He puts it away in his desk.
Yep.
They come in. What happens? You take it away.
Well, so then... He's like, it's almost 12:30 or 12, and I can't do business after 12 because my horoscope said that I can't do business after 12 today.
So then there's Ricky with egg on his face.
Yeah.
Get it? Because he had eggs for breakfast. Just kidding. No, he ate like one bite of those eggs. I was like, you're going to eat your food. So Anyway, that's because Lucy made him while she was like reading her numerology book. So she's like, oh, I understand. So then she's like all on board with Mr. Merriweather.
Well, she's like, you follow your horoscope, and she kind of looks back at Ricky, and he's like rolling his eyes.
Yeah, but he's like, okay, you're right.
And she's like, actually, I said no to you because Ricky's horoscope said it's a bad day to say yes.
And he's like, oh, definitely. Well, you definitely can't cross that. And then she's like, oh, and then somehow they end up talking about numerology.
And then he's like, do you do Ouija? Or do you Ouija?
Well, he's a 1, she's 3, and Ricky's 5. And he goes, oh, we're all odd. Yeah. And then they all look around, and it's like nobody gets the joke, and it's so funny. I'm like, oh, they're all odd. Anyway, so do you Ouija? And she's like,
She's like, I don't know what that is. And then he pulls the Ouija board out, and she's like, no, I haven't done this very much.
She's like, I haven't gotten there yet. Because she's on the train of numerology, tea leaves, palm reading. Like, she's
Tarot
getting there.
cards.
Horoscopes. She's almost there,
You
right?
never know.
So she's like, he's like, oh, I want to speak to my dear departed Tilly. And she's like, and he's like, oh, I just wish I could find a seance or something.
Yeah, and she's like, we're having a seance tonight in my house. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And like, Ricky's like, what? Sure, yeah, we are.
Yeah,
like,
he's like, whatever we can do to like.
Sorry.
Oh, if you could see the funny things that Trisha does that we can't show on camera. It sounds like lewd, but it's not. But by the way, I have to, like, speaking of lewd, let me reference back to when Lucy's trying to tell Ricky that he has the wrong number and the wrong name. And then she's like, our vibrations. And he goes, you don't like the way I vibrate?
I know.
And I was like,
I know.
What?
That was pretty risky.
That was like,
woo.
And then she's like, yeah, whatever. And I was like, that was like, wow, that was a risky joke back in the day.
Right?
Okay. Anyway, they played it off well. So going back to Mr. Merriweather, who's not sexy.
So he's coming over for a seance, and Lucy's going to plan the whole thing, and Ricky's like going along with it.
So they get home. Lucy is wearing the most fabulous outfit.
Lace dress.
She's wearing a lace dress over pants.
Yeah, it's really cute.
It's so cool. It's so like, I would like wear that in a second today. I'm like, what is that outfit? It's gorgeous. It's like, anyway, I couldn't stop looking at her outfit because I was like, she's wearing pants with this like dress overlay. It's so cool. Okay, that doesn't even matter. So, I mean, it does in the scheme of things, but not for this plot. So she's like, yeah. So then all of a sudden, bursts through the door. Fred is wearing like a Shriner's hat that says Tehran on it, which is like weird.
I don't get that. Yeah.
I don't get it either. It's probably culturally appropriated / racist. So he comes in, but he's like do 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 do, which is like the old like Swami music you played in the 50s.
But Ethel's like dressed like a medium.
Ethel has like
a turban with a diamond
and like a whole outfit, like a whole cool outfit, and she's got like a crystal ball.
Where'd she get the outfit?
They just walk in like this, and then it's like, and then he's like. He makes a joke and then he's like, you're medium, but you're well done or something. And nobody laughs at it except Lucy. She's like, haha, that's funny. And they're like, whatever. And it's like, you're just like, okay, Ethel and Fred rock. Because they just show up and they're like
ready to go.
Yeah, no like thought of any weirdness. They just
need us here
show up
to do this weird thing.
Oh, we're on board.
We're here. We will dress the part.
Ethel is 100% a medium immediately.
Yeah.
Nobody even talked about it. She just showed up that way. He's like, I mean, it's so funny. And so then Desi, look, I'm using his real name.
What?
We're so close.
So cute.
Ricky's like, let's go like get some ice. And he's like, hey, Fred, can you like pretend that you're like the voice of someone because I really need this job or whatever. And he's like, sure, I'll go downstairs and then you like bang on the floor because they live like underneath them, I think, downstairs from them. He's like, bang on the floor and I'll come up and like do this voice of like a dearly departed person, right? He's like, okay, it's Tilly. He's like, can you do a woman's voice? And he was like, he looks at him and he's like, oh, of course I can. And he like does a voice. And you're like, I love how they're all just down to do this like 100%. Totally. Like nobody's
and Fred's gonna like have a headache, and when he has a headache, he's like like if he had that headache right now, I'd be like, we need to call an ambulance.
Yeah. Also, my
'Cause
favorite
you're having
thing.
an aneurysm.
My favorite thing about that is that Ethel does not give a fuck.
No, she's like, so Lucy. She doesn't even notice at all.
She looks at him and she's like,
Okay.
whatever. And then
Yeah.
he just leaves. And like she doesn't even acknowledge that he has
Not
this
even a
horrible
little
headache
bit.
that's maybe gonna kill
She
him.
has her own role to play. Like she's busy.
She's over it. She doesn't care. She has like business. So he leaves. Mr. Merriweather arrives. So great. He sits down and they have like a little fake, table. And then it's like, here's the Swami, whatever her name is, medium, whatever. And then she's got like this fake voice. She's like, oh yes, I'm gonna blah, blah. I mean, I just love how they all jump into these characters. This is like my favorite thing. It reminds me so much. Okay, side note. Once, many times.
Once upon a time.
Many times in my life, but I'll use this one example. So we decided to make a movie for my dad for his birthday one year.
Oh, yeah.
And it was his 60th birthday. And we had like written stories and we are going to like record it. And like, it was going to be me and my husband and Trisha and her husband. So Trisha, like, like we used to live in an apartment. She buzzes in and she's like, wardrobes here, like makeup and wardrobes here, or something like that. Comes up. She's like bags full of costumes. So we're like ready to like do a show.
Yep.
And that is like that is literally when I watch this episode, it reminds me so much of our life because you and your husband, who's like, he just would show up and do shit.
We were ready to go. I put clothes on him. He's like, sure, what character am I playing?
Yeah, he just
and
does
he was
whatever.
Not even like a drama kid like the rest of us.
He just shows up and does it.
He just like would do it.
Thank you, Erin, for just being on board 100% all the time. Like not even
no question.
And that's what I loved about this episode was like Ricky's like, can you pretend to be a dead woman in this fake seance?
And he's like,
Fred's
can I ever?
Yeah, he just is like 100%
immediately
down
he's
with
like
it.
into it. Well, what I love is that when they're doing the seance and it's time for Ricky to cue him to do the voice, Ricky is like pounding his foot on the floor. And it's like, so Lucy's way of like getting away is like to sneeze and like make sure the guy's holding Ethel's hand.
Yeah, she's so smart.
It's like pretty tricky.
Nobody ever.
Because Lucy's going to do Tilly's voice and then like, and then, like,
she's like, oh.
Fred is going to like do a voice too, but he doesn't like come into play till a few minutes later.
So the way that Ethel contacts the spirits is like a telephone operator. She's
hello, this is Ethel. Transmission. No, because later
like, come in, Tilly.
Yeah, because Lucy says like
whatever the medium.
She's like, Ethel, you've underestimated your transmitter powers or whatever. Like, because she's like, this is a transmission. Come in, come in, Tilly.
It's
like,
so funny.
She's like, come in, Tilly.
Yeah, and she switches into like a telephone operator. I was like,
funny.
So
this
random.
is Ethel. Come in.
She doesn't say Ethel though. She says whatever her fake name is.
Her name was Ethel in the. Oh, I thought it was Ethel.
You might be right. I don't remember.
You know what? I don't know.
Don't comment if you're listening to this, or do scream out to yourself with your headphones.
I thought her name was still her name, but okay.
So,
but like medium Ethel.
But it was like instead of Mertz, it was like Merkowicz. Chalza or something.
Yeah,
they like made like a fake
fancy
last name.
name.
Yeah, they tried to make it like a bigger, fancier name. So then Lucy's hiding behind Ethel's chair, pretending
next
to be
to the fireplace.
Oh, and then she like burns herself.
She's all, it's hot here. He's like, Tilly, that's where you are, and she's like, yes, it's very hot.
And then he's like, oh no, Tilly, you were bad. I didn't know you would end up in hell or whatever because she burns herself on the fire. But she's like, oh, I'm Tilly. Hello. Like she's doing this like funny voice. So then Ricky like pounds out of the floor and then Fred comes up and hides behind another chair.
And then Mr. Merriweather's like, now I'd like to contact Mrs. Merriweather, which they all thought Tilly was Mrs. Merriweather.
Yeah, and then they all look at each other and they're like, what the F is
So then
that?
Fred does Mrs. Merriweather and Lucy's like about to start doing it, but then when she hears Fred's voice, she thinks it's a real ghost.
And Fred had heard her, and he was like, oh my God, like there's a real spirit here. And she's like, oh my God, there's a real spirit here. So then he like cuts out. Mr. Merriweather is thrilled. at the results.
He heard from Tilly and his wife.
Adelaide.
Yes.
Adelaide. He's delighted. This was the best night ever. He's gonna just dream about this for weeks on end. And then Ricky's like, I'll walk you out. So they leave. Fred comes in and he's like,
they're all looking under the furniture for some reason.
They're freaking out.
Because they're like, there's a ghost here.
And then she's like, Ethel, like, you are really...
Your transmitter
like a medium.
is on spot.
You really... Because I only did Tilly's voice, and I don't know what the other one was. Then Fred comes back, and he's like...
Because Ethel was like, I didn't know you could do two voices like that.
She's like, I didn't. I only did one. And then they're, like, tripping out for a minute. Then Ricky comes back, and he's like... And then they all figure out that, like, Fred had done the other voice. She had done the other one. And then he's like, you guys, I got the job. I got a better job, like a better show, whatever it was that Mr. Merriweather was hiring for.
You find out Tilly was Mr. Merriweather's Cocker Spaniel. And, like, you knew it was a pet the whole time.
I think you did. Well, or at least, like,
I feel like I knew.
Well, I feel like I knew, but I also feel like maybe because I had seen it before.
Maybe, but I kind of knew. And, like, it was still funny. Though it was still the reveal of the joke that Tilly was a dog and Mrs. Merriweather was
because at one point he asked Tilly if she liked him or Miss Merriweather better.
Yeah,
and that's
like when they all figure out that they're not talking to his wife. They all think Tilly's his wife until that moment, and then they're all like, Lucy's like looking around like. What do you mean? Who did I like more? And I love when she's doing the voice. Sometimes when he says something, like she sneezes and he's like, Tilly, you have a cold? And she's like, I didn't go out without my shroud tonight. Yeah. And he was like, oh, okay. And then he's like, Tilly, you have this? And she's like, I'm dead. Like in her normal voice. Like, though, like she doesn't even like.
She's like, I have a cold. I'm dead.
Yeah. She's like doing her Tilly voice. And then she's like, I don't know. Like, just like on the side. And like, he still buys it. Like, that's what's really funny about the whole thing. He never gives up that he knows.
And he never opens his eyes either. Because the whole thing is based on everyone keeping their eyes closed. Because everyone's jumping behind chairs to do voices.
So funny.
Ricky gets everything. They're all laughing. And then they're like, dude, it was like Fred doing the voice. And like, nobody says dude, but they say Fred was doing the voice. And you were doing the other voice.
Lucy was like, dude.
Oh my gosh. And then they're all like happy and laughing and hugging. And it's like the happiest ending to an episode. Because
it's so funny.
With the exception of Ricky being down on, the spiritual, aspect of this whole episode.
Well, any new idea.
And grabbing her by the ear.
Any new idea Lucy has, Ricky's like, I don't know. I don't trust
like,
that shit.
Forget that.
Yeah.
So they all come around and he benefits from it. And Lucy and Ethel, and Fred triumph with their ridiculousness. And I love it. It's my favorite thing about this show.
So funny.
The way that everybody buys in to jump in and help each other is the
best.
But the way that they show up, I'm like, this is exactly like my real life.
They're all in it. They're all in it for the show. Just like I will bring all my costumes to your house.
I was like, I might call you
at a moment's notice. I will bring you costumes for whatever you need.
No, there was a moment when my kids were young and they were going to camp, and every week they had to dress up for a theme, and I was like a young mom.
You were like, Trisha. What do I mean, do you have this? I was like, I have a bad scientist coat. I have a wig. I have a blah. I have a blah.
Go to Trisha's house and I'm like losing my mind. I wasn't a young mom. Let me rephrase that. I was a new mom.
New mom.
Because of my kids, we adopted them when they were like 7 and 9. So, they were like 10 and 8 at this point or whatever. And it was like first year of camp. So like every week it was like, there'd be a theme like Cowboy Day.
Oh yeah,
this was Cowboy Day, and I was like, I don't have
a vest and
anything,
a badge.
Trisha.
I had a
hat. I come to Trisha's house. We're in her garage, sitting there like on a folding chair or something. And I'm like, please help me. And you're like, here's a vest. Here's a badge. I don't know where you got the badge from.
Off of a pink hat my daughter had.
It was like
we pinned it to a brown vest that I wore in college to see the musical Hair. Another story. But I mean,
no, you
that
had
shit worked.
No, but I was like, okay, kids, because I was like mad at them first of all because I didn't know there was a dress up day, or somehow I missed it in the scheme of things, or they told me they didn't want to do it, but then of course the night before they did want to do it, and then we had nothing.
It's always the night before.
And you were like, I've got costumes. come here, we'll find something, and you made it work. And it just is very much like this Lucy
I
episode.
will always have costumes for you.
I thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And if you needed to dress up and do a seance for me, you would.
100%.
Or if I needed to do fake voices for you, I also would.
100%. And I know that about you, and I feel good about that.
I feel good about this. This is such a fun episode. Go watch it. The Seance. It's a laugh. Good times.
All right, everybody. So join our Patreon. Follow our Benchlings on Facebook. Follow us everywhere at 2 Girls on a Bench, the number 2. We're on Twitter, Instagram, all the feeds for 2 Girls on a Bench. We've got a nice Facebook group with some nice folks you will like. So hang out with us, listen to our other show, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Keep watching Lucy.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us on the bench.
Do you want to be a benchling? Be a benchling. Be a benchling.
Wow.
Be a benchling. Be a benchling.
Hey.
Be a benchling. Won't you want to be a benchling too?
Benchpodcasts.com